Today is May 1st, and I want to discuss with you how we did in April. Now, it's not just going to be numbers, because I actually did record all of my harvests by plant type, by date, by weight this year, which is something I've wanted to do the past couple of years because I feel like good data can give me good information to make good decisions on what I want to do going forward with the garden. And we'll get into some of that a little later, because I've already gotten some information from my harvest that tell me I'm going to change some things that I'm doing next year. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about an April review kind of overall and what's gone well, what's not gone well. We'll talk a little bit about May forecast, what I expect, not in numbers to come out of the garden, but more what changes we're going to be seeing. And then we're going to talk a little bit about numbers as well for April, because that's kind of an interesting point. Starting with April bad. I like to get the bad out of the way because we can start low and then go up from there. The bad from April has been primarily two things. One, my lettuce has been horrible. I couldn't get seed started properly. Maybe it was old seed, maybe the temperatures weren't right, maybe the potting mix I used was bad. Some combination of that yielded me a very low seed starting level that put me in a very low harvest level for April for lettuce, which is different than what I've had in prior years. Now, outside temperatures have not led to great early outside temperatures in April. Did not lead to great plant growth. So even if I had plants ready to go, my harvest would have been much lower in April for lettuce than in prior years. But I did seed start 2 weeks ago, I think April 13th, 2 fresh packs of seeds in a much higher quality potting mix than my homemade compost, and with better temperatures. And I got amazing germination. So I'm comfortable that I still know how to start lettuce. I just had probably some bad variables early on. It's been disappointing because I really do like lettuce in my salads in this April through June time frame, and it's not going to happen as much this year. The other bad thing is my overwintered onions. Horrible. We had a really cold winter, and then we had a really up and down spring. And as a biennial, what onions should typically do, if you sow them in spring, where they're going to bulb out through midsummer, that's going to be their first year. They'll go dormant, they'll seed the following year. Even though mine went into the ground in late October, from a seed starting probably in early September, they received information that they had a full first year of bulbing, and they're seeding now, even though they didn't. So I'm not going to have any storage onions this year, which is disappointing. Got a lot of green onions because I'm cutting the tops back for that, but that was a bit of a bummer. Your wins with your losses. The other bad, I would say, when I look around the garden, a lot of bolting brassicas as well. Not everyone, but a few are bolting earlier this year than I would have expected. My Bok Choy bolts in the spring regardless all the time. I don't know why it's so sensitive to the slightly increasing temperatures, even when they're not that hot, and the increasing day length, but I'll stick with Bok Choy for the fall. One of my mustards bolted more aggressively this spring than last spring, but my red Russian kale is, I would call, bolt hardy. I've never actually had red Russian kale bolt on me in the first year. I've never overwintered it to the following year. Now, I'll lose my red Russian kale at the end of June to pests, so I'll probably pull it a little earlier than that, but that's a hardy crop for springtime growing for me. And the weeds are getting out of control a little bit on the annual side. Most of the Bermuda grass is out of the garden, so I'm not losing my mind about the annual weeds. I'm picking them when I get to it, but they're, for the most part, not infesting the beds. They're in the pathways, and I've got enough work to do out in the garden without getting obsessed about the weeds. So that's kind of the bad that we've got going on right now. The good in April has been all my asparagus came back, and that was unexpected because at the end of March, only 6 of the 13 crowns regrew, and that was started from seed last February. Yeah, February 24. Transplanted probably June. Within a few days of that, of me thinking that the other 7 crowns were dead, they shot up, and now I've got a mess of asparagus. The other good has been I have gotten a fair number of leaves off of the brassicas that haven't bolted. The strawberries have been phenomenal. I'm getting a lot of sugar snap peas, and my one of my favorite things I've got going right now, my carrot bed is really full, and I think I did a really good job thinning it. So I think this spring and summer, we're going to have a lot of carrots coming in. Another good thing that happened was, even though some of my seed starting for my tomatoes and my radishes and my beets were looking a little sad in the trays, I put them outside, I got them in the soil, they've all recovered great. So that worked out really well. I'm happy about that. And as you can see behind me, my blackberries are looking phenomenal. We're going to get a big harvest of those in a few weeks. So yeah, April was an up and down month. I'd probably grade it a C+ on overall performance. But I can't be unhappy with that, being that I fought some weather, and like I said, my seed starting on lettuce, I got in my own way a little bit. I'm okay with that. May will be better. Talking about May, the big changes we're going to have then, the garlic's going to come out. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully it comes out without garlic mites. I think that's what happened last year when my garlic came out. It didn't look... In May of 2024, late May, I was expecting to harvest my garlic closer to second week of June, because the prior year, 2023, late May I harvested, and I felt like I probably could have pushed the bulbs a little farther, let them size up a bit more. So in 2024, I said I'm going to push it. In late May, with a pretty heavy mulch layer on top, we had a really heavy rain. I think it retained too much water in the ground. Then in early June, I noticed the leaves started failing pretty quickly on the garlic. So I pulled it out of the ground. I saw some things on the bulbs that made me think they weren't that healthy, and then they didn't store. I didn't think about mites until a week ago, because I heard it on another channel that that's something someone else experienced. And I'm thinking that might have been what it is, and I used that seed stock to plant again, so we'll see how that comes out. Either way, we'll get garlic scapes, because I can plant only hardneck garlic. So yeah, garlic's going to come out of 5 beds. One bed is going to be flowered entirely after that, with cosmos, a couple types of zinnias, marigolds. That's going to be gorgeous. And the other 4 beds are going to be my sweet potatoes. In another 4 or 5 days, I'm going to break down my sweet potato vines that I have under cover right now for slips. I got a whole comprehensive video on sweet potato propagation that I'm going to release about that time. So that's going to be, I think that'll be an interesting one for you to watch, especially if you want to learn how to grow sweet potato slips. I do a pretty good job of that. Had a few years of success, so I'm pretty comfortable sharing what I do out like that and giving somebody not a tutorial necessarily, but a bit of a visual guidance as to what they could do to get started as well. And I love my sweet potatoes too. Leaves are edible, by the way. So while you're waiting for that root to really swell up, take some leaves for some salads in the summer when other greens have gotten given up. Pretty worthwhile crop to get in your garden. The potatoes are not going to come out in May. I'm not forecasting that, at least. I expect them to come out maybe the second week of June at the earliest, but we'll see, because some of my red potatoes have already started getting flowers. But it feels early for that, because I noticed those about 45 days after putting them in the ground. So I put the red potatoes in on March 9th, and I think maybe a week ago, I noticed the first flowers. So that was probably, yeah, about 45 days in. One other bad thing I didn't mention, and this is a bad thing, this is a frustrating thing, the potato beetles have already shown up. The Colorado potato beetle. So one of my daily chores now is to basically spend a half an hour crawling around the garden, around those 6 beds, squishing those things. Because in the last couple of years, when I didn't make that much of an effort, they defoliated the plant pretty quickly, and my yields, and I think that probably negatively impacted my yields. Ah, well. Let's talk numbers for April. So I've got an Excel spreadsheet inside. I have a table running, and then I run pivot tables to classify things and categorize things the way I want to look at them. So we're going to talk broadly right now. We harvested 123 pounds of food in April, starting, I think it was April 4th when I pulled the first thing out of the ground. Now I'm eating food that's in storage prior to that. So out of the freezer from last year, from the counter, we got sweet potatoes. So I'm eating food from the garden of last year, but this year I'm actually tracking everything I harvest this year, and it has to make it inside, and it has to hit the scale to make the spreadsheet. So if I'm sitting out here and I'm harvesting my sugar snap peas and I munch a few, that doesn't hit the spreadsheet. Same thing for any bolted brassicas. If I just walk into my chickens, that's not getting counted. Any garden snack I have doesn't happen. If it goes in the house and it hits the scale, it hits the spreadsheet. And we don't waste food inside. If it's on the counter, I'm eating it. Doesn't matter how much it is, I'm getting through it. So if it's inside, it counts. So 123 pounds, and that was driven almost entirely by strawberries. About 9 or 10 days ago, we started harvesting the strawberries. It was about a 4-day lead-in until we had a steady state of harvest weight, give or take, and we're up to 105 pounds prior to today's harvest, with a run rate on the harvesting weight when it really picked up of about 14 to 15 pounds a day. I expect that to continue on and off over the next few weeks. The other noticeable ones, greens and leaves. Despite the fact that my lettuce has not been good, I actually did have 4 volunteer lettuce plants that I have harvested from. I had some spinach that didn't do great, but I have pulled off that, and I have pulled a fair amount of mustard. So we've got about almost 12 pounds of greens and leaves off of the plants. And that hasn't been great for April, but I've had freezer greens as well from last year, so I've been able to supplement with that. It's been adequate, and May is going to really be a good month for that, I'm anticipating. Like I said, the sugar snap peas are doing well, though I've only harvested twice off them. I'm harvesting again today. Every 3 days on those right now is sort of my forecast for harvesting. We've gotten 2 pounds off those 2 harvests. Not unhappy with that. And for root vegetables, I have 1 bed of radishes that I've pulled I pulled a dozen radishes off that. Early Scarlet Globe is a variety. They've swelled up bigger than I thought. I got 2 pounds off of 12 radishes, and those leaves, by the way, are phenomenal. So if you're growing radishes and you're into the leafy green game, steam those greens and toss it with a little bit of balsamic vinegar, a little bit of soy sauce, and that's a really worthwhile dish. So yeah, like I said, 123 pounds in total, driven primarily by 105 pounds of strawberries. And the big weights I think we're going to see in May are going to be the weight coming from the strawberries, a lot of greens weights, probably a fair amount of root weight again. The pods, we're going to have a full month of those sugar snap peas, and the blackberries will start tuning up as well. So the berry category is going to probably drive it again. And then when we come into June, it's definitely going to be the potatoes. They're going to drive the weight. And at that point, the greens are probably going to give up. But what else? The garlic is also going to hit really heavy on the weight in May. Even if it doesn't come out clean, it's still very edible early on. It's just not going to store properly. So I'm going to do a better job of trying to dry it and cure it. So hopefully that should relieve some of the mite pressure as well. But yeah, if it doesn't store, it's going to be a bit of a bummer, because I'm going to have to figure out a new strategy going forward for garlic. I don't want to invest in all of the weight of garlic to get the same volumes that I have now, but I might have to start from scratch again. So that's the April summary and sort of a bit of a May forecast. If you want to see more of this, I'm going to do this kind of a roundup every month in the first or second day of the month coming out of the previous month. And other than that, we've got some propagation videos going. We've got composting. We're going to have monthly tours. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please give the video a like, subscribe, start some comments below. I'll chat anything gardening with you. If you want to know what my practices are around here, more than happy to share. So until next time, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.